We want to give kids the stability, the predictability, the environment where they can heal so that maybe they're reunified, maybe they're adopted by you, maybe by somebody else. That's our goal, not just to house and force behavioral compliance on our kids. Okay? So this is an interactive, didactic. We're going to hit it kind of fast. We're going to try to get through the first three things, so we're going to hit it fairly quickly. So interrupt. I tend to talk very fast. You guys are in the spit zone here. So as I get going, I'll try to aim this way if I feel like something's going to come out here in the, you know, the sea world where you get into the water zones. This is kind of the spit zone here. So let's move. Everybody, we're going to follow the slides exactly, okay? So we're going to go about till a little bit before noon. We'll take a break. We don't really need to do those introductions. Okay, so why are we studying this? Why a trauma workshop? Why are you guys here? That's where most of the kids come from, absolutely. What does that mean? What does trauma mean?
A shocking experience.
A shocking experience, yes. Many times, one of the easiest ways to define trauma is anything that's overwhelming and unpredictable. Because think about it. Think about our fires that we just experienced. Part of the process that makes it traumatic is we had no control over it. Basically, the first couple of days, it was unpredictable and overwhelming. Overwhelming on every visceral front, correct? The smell, the sounds, even the taste of the ash in the air, the temperature, all of that, okay? So, many children in foster care have lived through multiple traumatic experiences. Every move we know sets a child back about 6 months. At least 6 months. Every single move. So when you get a child that's moved 14 times, what are you doing?
Sometimes 7 years.
That's right. Says the math person in our group. The rest of us are going, I don't know, but nice job. Children bring their traumas with them. It's not like we go, oh, okay, well, there's my trauma. Trauma embeds, trauma changes our brains. Changes our brains irrevocably. I can't say that word, irrevocably. There, I said it. Trauma affects a child's behavior, feelings, relationships, and view of the world in profound ways. And most of the time, we just look at their behaviors and go, wait a second, that child's lying to me, they're stealing, they're tantruming, I'm done. Without really understanding that those are the three most common behaviors that we get with a child with trauma history. Lying, stealing, and tantruming. And we start getting all upset because that child's lying to us. We start taking it personally, don't we? Who likes to be lied to? Anybody? We're not signing up for that one, huh? So what we need to do is we need to understand the purpose of that. Whoops. Sorry. Can't look forward in. All right, so what we're going to, this is why we're here today. It affects us too. Compassion fatigue. What is compassion fatigue?
You just don't know what else to do with the situation.
You don't know what else to do with the situation. And what happens is we hear their stories. They come in and we have children with multiple cigarette burns. We have children with broken bones. We have children that have been neglected that don't know that they can have food at any time they want. We have all that. We hear those stories and they start residing in us. And pretty soon we start to get really, really full of everything that's in there. So, and we don't know what to do with it. And if you don't have a good support system, if you don't have somebody that you can just blow off that steam with, you're more likely to keep all that stuff stuck. And then you'll find yourself, it starts to impact your relationships, starts to impact your health. You start to find out that you're having headaches, you can't sleep, you don't have the joy in your life, it's gone. You're dulled. Now, to stay in this, I've been doing this a long time. So I've had to find a way to keep things, oh, was it hot? Yeah. I saw that face going, So we've got to find ways that will allow us to let off a little bit at a time so that it doesn't flow. Because that's when we say, get them out of my house. And it's not really the child, it's our responses and what we're doing with all their pain. So it's very, very important that we learn how to manage that. And, do I? Oh, she was getting the phone, sorry. Trauma's effects on children and on us. So when a child acts out, it's hard for us not to take it personally. When they cause issues with our own children, when they vandalize our homes, when they do something that feels extremely personal, that's when it starts to take its toll on us. And I see it, they're so greatly motivated. I want to do this, I want to be there for a child, I really want to make a difference, I want to love them. All right, great, that's what will get you in the door. Just like getting married, right? You're starry-eyed, let's get married because we're in love. I always look at them and go, okay, what's love got to do with it? Because doesn't a relationship of significance, whether it's marriage, it's whatever it is, a best friend, doesn't a relationship take more than just love? What does it take? You guys both did your head at the same time. Oh, yes. Commitment, forgiveness, grace, understanding, self-awareness. Isn't that one of the first ingredients? I need to be understanding why I'm responding the way I'm responding. Do you not think it's any different with these children? These children deserve our work on ourselves so that we don't react to their reactions. Because they have some behaviors, because they're in what mode? Survival. Self-defense, self-preservation, survival. The S word, survival mode. So think about our fire right now. Most people aren't thinking about, you know, maybe I should go to college and get another degree, or I'm going to read this new book. What are they thinking about? Oh my gosh, I don't have clothes for next week to go to, should I go to work? I don't have any money for groceries. Where am I going to live? How am I going to pay for this? Insurance isn't going to kick in right away. What am I going to do? They're in survival mode. That's what our kids are like. And we can say, oh, you're in my home now, you're safe. You're safe. Makes sense to us, right? But there's a child that's in survival mode. So all of a sudden now, they can't just turn it off. Oh yeah, I know, she's a good person. She loves me, she's gonna take care of me. There's survival, they're looking around. When's the next shoe gonna drop? Okay? Now, just a little bit about my story. A couple of you have heard this, but the reason that I kind of got into this is not because I fostered or adopted. I married. And I married someone with a significant trauma history, and I didn't know it. You know, we were in love. And the journey that this has put me through really took me into a place of trying to figure out what trauma is about. Because we'd have a benign situation, just commonplace living together, and there would be this reaction. And I'd be, dude, what's up? And then I would react. Well, you know where that went, don't you? Now, not fighting, because my husband does the flight. He escapes and shuts down. I'm a fighter. So you see where this is going. Following him around. Oh, come on. Don't you ignore me. Come on. So because of it, you gotta talk to me. I'm a verbal processor, can you tell? Yes. I have lots of words. I have yet to find a day when I've used them all up. I'm a verbal processor, so I didn't understand the trauma experiences and how that survival mode for him causes him to shut down. So when I would say something, it would appear to him as a threat. Really? I'm on your team, dude. We're together. So that threat caused him to shut down, which then brought out my fight response. So this dynamic wasn't very helpful. So for 20 years, we did that. And finally, as I began studying and looking at trauma in the last several years, we've been able to understand and change those dynamics. We just celebrated 35 years. I know! It is a miracle! With a capital M. And we laugh and we say, yeah, it's been 5 of the best years of our lives. So, but at the same time, I'm saying that just to illustrate the fact that that's what put me into this. So I've lived a lot of that. Hi guys, welcome. This is our VRP clinical staff coming in. Guys, please spread out. We've got lots of room. So we just started a couple minutes ago. We're tickled to death that you're here. So I was just telling a little bit of my story. I'll reiterate it just for a second to give you some context that I got into the study and involvement with trauma, not because I fostered or adopted, but because I married. And I married someone with significant trauma history. And through that process, I've really tried to grow and learn a lot about what trauma is all about. So again, it's been a great journey as we go along. So here's a quote from a foster dad. No one really explained to me about the trauma of the impact of trauma on the child's life. And that's why you're here, because we want to understand trauma. And did you know that the word trauma in the Greek language means wound? And it doesn't distinguish between emotional or physical. So a trauma, an emotional trauma, is on the same category as a physical wound. We don't look at a physical wound and go, get over it. Put a Band-Aid on it, suck it up, dude. Do we? We say, no, here, let me kiss your boo-boo. Let me put a Band-Aid, let's put some spray on it. Whatever we need to do to help that boo-boo heal, because it's very obvious and very visible. Now, we don't see those emotional wounds, but this is an opportunity for us to acknowledge and treat them with the same gentleness and kindness and give a nurturing. Why do we think so many young children have enuresis? You know what that is? Enuresis, wetting the bed, or wetting their pants. Why do you think why do you think that there's so many young children that have that? Thoughts? Guesses?
It's a control thing.
Can be. It's a good control thing. I can control what goes in my body. I can control what goes out. Yesterday we staffed a young girl that has very significant anorexia. And so we were talking about, well, that's another case. One of the other reasons why a child likes to wet around is because maybe as a young baby that was the only time that they were nurtured and cared for when their diaper was being changed. So the smell of urine brings back that memory for them. I had a caretaker that would wipe me off and pat me and make eye contact and talk to me at the time my diaper was being changed. It's a very nurturing ritual, isn't it? Still, we take those legs and we play with them and everything. My second youngest grandson is 1 year old today. So I called him on the way to sing happy birthday. Well, they were looking for the phone upstairs, his mom, and he was in the high chair right by the phone. The answering machine came on, and I'm singing. And he's sitting like a foot away. And she said he just started clapping to it. That's that synchronicity. That's that relationship, that playfulness. That's the oxytocin that comes from being in relationship. So, and some children only got it when they were being changed, when they were having their diaper changed. Might have been the only touch they got. So think about it. It makes sense for them to be wetting around. So when they do that, rather than our coming up with a 4-step plan on how to get them to quit wetting everywhere, we start to identify and look at what needs are not getting met. And maybe we look at some physical touch that we can do, some other kinds of stimulation that they could engage in. Okay, so here's where we're going. We're zipping through. We're going to do the first 3 modules. This is from the NCTSN, and if you've never been on that website, it's amazing. It's NCTSN.org, and everything on it is free. NCTSN, National Child Traumatic Stress Network.org. This curriculum is from there. This is a curriculum for resource parents. You are a resource parent. And then we have staff too, so it's important for them to understand what we're teaching our parents, okay? So a very, very good resource. All right, so here's something that we can use with our kids also. Many times our children, and I'm just going to use children generically, it could be from a baby up to 25, I don't know, whatever. So they're not able to tap into their feelings. They only give us behaviors because they don't have the sophistication to give us words. So behaviors are their language. It's our job to decode what those behaviors are trying to tell us. And many times we just react or consequent behaviors as opposed to try to understand what was the purpose and the need that drove that behavior. So in the midst of that, there's a feeling in between the need and the behavior. Okay? So here's the need, here's the behavior, and there's feelings right here. So we can help them identify the feelings. If they can identify the feelings, they can move to understanding what those needs are. So what might be some feelings that our kids would have? This is where you answer.
Angry.
Angry, absolutely. And when they say anger, anger could come out in many different ways, can't it? Like shutting down. We know that Bruce Perry talks about a dissociative continuum. How many of you, and some of you are doing it right now, zoning out? That's the first level of disassociation. We do that, don't we? We zone, we space, right? Many times when things get overwhelming, we just kind of go absent. That's the dissociative continuum. That's how we deal with trauma. It progresses along. We have the middle of it, and the example of this is many of our young men, our boys, what do they do that helps them disassociate? Particularly males. Yes, video games. Have you ever tried to talk to a teenage boy while playing a video game? Are they there? They disassociated. It's okay. It's a way for the brain to reset. It's not a bad thing. Okay? Now, if they're doing it 22 hours a day, they're doing it 16 hours a day, it could be a bad thing. But it allows the brain to reset, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay? Because we all do it. You'll see somebody and you go, where'd you just go? Did you during vacation? Because they're just not there. That's the way that our brain can help rest. So, we have the disassociation, which comes from anger sometimes. They check out. All right, you also said what? Abandonment. So what kind of feeling is that?
Hopeless.
Okay, there you go.
Vanish.
Hopelessness. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I don't have hope around something, that's about the most devastating place to be. Hopeless that anybody's going to want me. Hopeless that it'll ever get better. Hopeless that I won't heal. Hopeless about any number of different things. What other emotions? Anxiety, which is very much wrapped with fear. And I'd say fear is one of the purest emotions. And guys, we don't really dial down to fear very often, do we? We stay up here with these platitudes. So tell me what you're fearful of. And I don't want spiders and snakes. Tell me what you're fearful of. Or heights. Let's do something more. What are you fearful of? Attachment. You're afraid of attaching? Okay, that's a good one because I'm afraid of attaching because if I attach, it might hurt if they leave, right? But I don't want you not to attach. Because if you don't attach, you're not going to be affected. So that fear could keep her frozen, couldn't it? And if we freeze, then we can't give kids what they need. All about our fear. So my question would be, what's the fear really about? I won't be enough. I'll lose. Next time it'll be harder. What other fears do we have?
Loss.
Pardon?
Fear of loss.
Fear of loss. We've been talking a little bit about the Black Forest fires this morning, and so, I mean, look at the loss they have on multiple levels. Loss of life as they knew it. Most people, we don't get to that level of grief. You know, we work a lot with autistic kids, and one of the things in working with the parents is helping the parents identify their own loss around, this is not the child they thought they were going to have. So now what do I do with that? And they need to grieve that loss. It's not that it's a bad thing. We just need to give them the space to be able to do that. Okay?
Is it the same too when the child is in the parent, even though the parent has been devastating apart, the child is still experiencing loss of that.
Right. So what you're saying is even an abusive, neglectful parent, the child's moved away from them, it's still lost, yes. And they're not looking at it going, oh, you know, my parents were abusive, but now I'm in such a better place, and wow, boy, did I score. No, they're going, where's my mom? Where's my dad? Because a child starts to psychologically process 13 weeks in utero. And so they're getting used to the sights and the sound, not sights, excuse me, the sounds and the rhythms of their mom in utero, as well as